3. Bribery. Very plainly, Scripture condemns the taking of bribes. The law speaks of this in Exodus chapter 23, verse 8, Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 19, and chapter 27, verse 25. It is regarded as a very serious offence since it prevents justice. On the other hand, biblical law has no penalties for offering bribes. This is a point which troubles many Christians. The fact is, however, that Scripture sees the problem very realistically. The judge or public official is a person in a position of power. In my travels back and forth across the country, and in my conversations with people from abroad, a clear pattern emerges with respect to bribery. First, the bribe is normally solicited by the official in power. It is the standard means of doing business with him. If contracts are to be issued, none are granted without a payoff. If a decision is to be rendered, a bribe is a prerequisite to any kind of fair consideration. Granted that many who offer bribes are themselves corrupt, the fact remains that all who offer bribes would, in the whole, prefer to do business with civil authorities, their courts, and their agencies without the payoff. It adds very substantially to their cost of operation. It leaves them open to legal reprisals, and more people giving them than those receiving them are sentenced for bribery. Recently, even when several manufacturers and producers were convicted for giving bribes, other politicians were busily collecting more. This already makes clear a second aspect of bribery. The cost of bribery is borne by the one offering it. It is an unpleasant tax on him which he feels he must pay. More than a few businessmen regard bribes as another form of taxation, and actual rates are fixed as in taxation. The real profit in bribery is on the side of the receiver. The giver often wants justice, and he resents the partiality involved and the corruption. If the giver of the bribe has an inferior product and is succeeding only because of his bribery, he is still a creature of the politician and is sacrificed when necessary. All over the world, bribery is standard operating procedure on the part of civil governments. This corrupt tax leads often to the creation of criminal groups whose function becomes the sale of inferior goods at high prices, with large bribes to civil authorities at the connivance of those authorities. In most cases, to punish the one who bribes is somewhat analogous to punishing a rape victim rather than the rapist. True, the briber is not always under a like coercion, but often the coercion is very real, so that bribery comes close to being a form of theft. It involves a monetary theft, and also a theft of justice. One man who began work for the state and then found that his payments would be withheld, his work condemned, and that he would be wiped out financially if he did not make a payoff, said bitterly of bribery, "There's no other way to do business with the government." Bribery must be condemned, but in terms of Scripture.